Call meeting to order at 5:05. Are you reading, Tom, the thing that you just received, or are you reading the minutes?
No, I'm reading the minutes.
The minutes, okay. Do you have any problems, everyone?
I have one thing in the minutes and it's already been taken care of.
It's already taken care of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever Tom is set, we can, unless you have something.
I wasn't at the meeting, so you guys can approve them.
Right, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
No warrants or waivers?
No, I do.
Oh, darn.
Sorry.
Do you have the warrants? Hey, Wayne, what's the US Blue Book for $2,785?
I bought level transmitters, they're beginning to burn out.
Oh.
So that's 2 level transmitters. I need a few more, but I was doing them slowly. Because I have to go on and program them.
What's from Central Time Clock?
So the old hand thing we couldn't use anymore. We always considered it a disease spreader, so we switched over to it's a visual one.
Yeah. South Main is only a duplicate for part of that
Yeah, it still needs, yeah.
The 12-inch only goes up to
That's it?
Kent's Transportation.
Yep. That, after that, it's that piece of crap main the rest of the way.
You don't have a choice after Kemp's.
Right.
So the Crescent Street 4-inch, we're not gonna be doing for a while. That will be just paved.
Yeah, they're just paving that, so I started in 2005, and that, I think that's the last time they paved that road,
What's that? What's
Crescent Street.
They haven't paved it since '05?
I believe so, it's either 05 or 06, because I remember I was only first here, and I got sent down there to look at the gate boxes. I mean, didn't know anything, and Charlie got mad at me and didn't talk to me for almost a year.
Why?
Because something to do with the gate boxes, like, he's like, you gotta take care of that. I'm like, I don't know what to do, I'm not taking care of that, you guys messed it up. And that was it, he was mad at me.
Some of that main is on Old Crescent Street, it's not,
Yeah, and you'd have to tie all them people, they're all tied up, there are 2 houses tied out of the backside. Well, now there's 3 houses tied out of the backside.
right. And there's no other main near some of those houses, so if you shut that off, you got a
Yeah,
problem.
you'd have to leave, well, you could cut sections and leave those sections alive, but it's not, it would cost millions of dollars to start getting rid of stuff, it's not.
You signed, that's an abatement. Did you? No, you signed.
I signed.
Yep. So I need Rick and Tom to sign. That's an abatement.
Who signed this? Is this Art?
Yeah.
And did you sign on the minutes?
Yep, I did that one.
Tom, and then we just have one, we have abatement.
Where do you have a steel service at the Howard Skating rink?
It shows on the drawing, says it's a steel, that's a steel service going over to that, the post thing.
No, it isn't. It's plastic.
Alright, cause it's on the drawing.
Because I put it in there, and it wasn't that many years ago, there was no steel pipe. There's a steel pipe coming out of the ground and going down to an elbow, I believe, to the shut-off,
Yeah,
and that's it. It goes across the street to the main in plastic 2-inch. But we couldn't have plastic sticking up out of the ground, so I forget how it drains now. I think there's a valve there or something. You turn it on and drain that pipe back. It's set up so it doesn't freeze. You
Right.
can use it in the wintertime to flood the ice skating rink, but it's steel. It's steel, but only the piece that goes down. You can't-
alright, cause the whole
Yeah,
thing, that whole piece was labeled 2-inch steel, so that's why it got on the list. I'll have her change that.
That isn't that old. That was put in 1990 something. Alright. I got a question. You want to replace East Street, 4-inch main?
Well, so there are duplicates there,
Well, the other day, you tied,
we didn't have so, I didn't put up the picture, so when we tried to dig in whatchamacallit's house, Parker's,
yeah,
the gas, we didn't know if it was live or not, and it had some funky fittings. If you could, I have a picture, but I didn't put it on my thing. So in the end, we were left with no room to dig between the new gas main and what we didn't know was live on the other side. So we ended up striking our own main because we didn't have any place to dig. And when we did the location with the locator, it located the gas main, not our main, because it's at the surface. So eventually after we hit us, we were able to drill holes and we tested the gas main and found out it was dead and cut it all out of the way. But now we had to switch over to repair. So yeah, he got tied into the 4-inch.
So you're gonna go back and tie him into the 12?
I'm not gonna go back there now, no.
Well,
At some point, there's so many
Right.
other customers, it's not just one. Yeah, you start at one and you continue down, but
but you're just tying in new people and you're tying them into the old main. That doesn't make sense. Plus, you charged them to go across the street and you didn't go across the street.
no, but he's supposed to get an abatement. So if he calls you and complained, well, that's okay, but I've already asked Kerry to find out how we abate him his $500 back.
Yeah, you gotta, if you don't go across the street, you gotta give him back his money.
And that's what's happening. He doesn't know that, but it's happening in the background. She went on vacation. I don't know what happened with it. I saw the emails come across. She's trying to ask what account to take it out of. Because once you put the check in, I don't know where it goes. But it should have been on an abatement that you
You just
assigned
ask them to bring
tonight.
back a check, it doesn't matter where it comes out.
Right.
It goes in
I don't
line.
do the billing. I have enough issues doing construction and everything else.
Okay, I think you ought to go back, and I think you ought to tie him into the 12, because he says he's getting rusty water. And if you're gonna replace the 6-inch, you did a job, and you just created more work for later on.
So you weren't standing there that day when we struck the thing and the day went south instantly. With gas mains all around us, I'm not gonna hit a gas main and then get cited for that and then get fined for it
Well,
also.
come on,
We
Wade.
did the
I've done
best.
this.
Don't come on with me. I've already stood with you on bad
I
days
did this all
before.
my life.
Yes, in
Close it
another
up.
day we can go
Patch it.
back.
Close it
But
up.
on that day, we
Come
were
back
not
another-
gonna go back. We
Well, come
tied
back
in.
another day. Come back another
And
day.
there's 50 other customers that are not saying they get rusty water. He just wants to be tied into the bigger main.
Okay,
And
Well,
I don't
that's
have
what
an
he
issue
paid
with
for.
that, and at another time, we can go back and do it.
well, I say, tie him into the bigger main, that's where he should have been tied into. Did he need water that night?
He wanted water. I don't know
Okay.
what his hurry was for.
Okay, but he had to wait for you to get there, so he did, it wasn't a disaster that he was out of water.
No, we were
So
like 2
fix
days
the,
behind
you
him running his
broke the
spot.
main, it's not his fault, it's your fault. You broke the main, fix the main, come back the next day. It's not his fault. Tie him in where he's supposed to be, that's my opinion. Tie him in where he's supposed to be, that's the way we would have done it years ago. You make a mistake, it's not,
We didn't make
it's
a
not the
mistake.
it's not the customer's fault. The customer did nothing wrong. We did something wrong.
So he has your ear, and that's why I'm hearing this now. The problem is, there's 50 other
No,
customers
you're
tied
hearing
into
it
that
now
main
because
and
I
not
think you did it
complaining
wrong.
about rusted water.
Well,
Not pressure either.
I'm telling you, Wayne, you did it wrong.
But you're not taking care of the other 50 customers, you're taking care of
Oh,
him.
what 50 customers?
I didn't do anything wrong, I avoided getting fined.
Oh, you're not getting fined, just do the job, do it right, that's all.
We did the job that's done right. Do you see water bubbling
Okay,
up?
I
When
told
he
you
turns
what I
on his
thought.
faucet, does he have water? He does.
But it's off the wrong main, you want to replace the main.
And I don't know how he can have water, I don't think we've put a meter in there yet.
Well, why don't you just go back there, if he doesn't even have water,
Because
go back there
tomorrow
and
I'm
do it
trying to
right.
tie in a stub
You
on
did it
High
wrong.
Street ahead of paving.
Wayne, you did the job wrong.
I did not
And
do
I'm
the
telling
job
you, you did.
wrong.
I'm telling
In
you,
your eyes, yes.
I'm telling you, you did the job wrong, all right? You didn't do it right. You charged the man to go across the street, tie him into the 12. You never even got there. You want to get rid of the 6. You got it on your list to replace it.
I do.
Okay. And now you tied a brand new house into it.
Because I didn't
That
have a
doesn't make
choice
any
on
sense.
that given day.
And he's not even in a hurry to get the water on. You haven't even got a meter in there now.
He ran that line on a weekend. He was ready.
Wayne, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm telling you you're wrong, okay? I'm your boss and I'm telling you you're wrong. You're wrong.
I really don't care. I did what I did that day. We didn't get fined by the gas company. I've already received a letter.
Oh, you're not gonna get fined. Don't give me that. You ever seen a fine? How many fines you ever got from the gas company? The gas company has never fined me in the 38 years I've been here. So don't blow smoke up, all right?
I already got one letter on Crescent Street.
I'm telling
We
you, you
didn't
get
get
it
fined
wrong.
because we didn't actually
All right,
strike
shut up. I've had it. Moving on to the next.
You know what? I'm not feeling good. See ya.
Good. Old business. Oh, the PFAS testing. I spoke to David Gagney on that.
Yep.
And he has got a call from DEP, and they want to talk to us about, want to talk to me and talk to him, and that's a sign that they're looking for money, okay? If we come up with a contaminant in the water, because otherwise they just talk away, you know what I mean? So I told David, I think we ought to take the meeting and listen to him, but don't promise him anything. Don't say yes to anything.
No, they're probably going, with all the crap around the PFAS, they're probably gonna be going through a whole bunch of crap about trying to figure out how they're gonna deal with what's gonna go on with the costs and everything else.
Right.
Because there's no way people have any money to do that
I know.
on top of what they've already
But I
done.
don't wanna come up with, they do a test, they find something wrong, and we gotta treat it, you know what I mean? So, I think we ought to just sit back and listen to what they have to say, and then we'll decide as a board what we should do about it, if we should, because I guess they're gonna do the testing, they're gonna pay for it.
Who's PFAS anyway?
It's,
Poly something fluoride. It's the latest thing.
Forever chemicals. They never
Yeah,
go
they're
away.
forever. They're beginning to reduce
Foam.
what it's used in.
fire foam.
That's one of the main things, but it's used in a lot of plastics also.
Who's testing it? Who's doing the testing?
So the DEP is,
They're gonna come to West Bridgewater and do random testing?
well, they're not. You had to apply, so I saw free testing, like, it started almost more than a year ago. And then it got dropped and then suddenly it came forward. So when they wanted to speak to the money people, that's when I let Rick and David know. There might be something more here than we want to see. And I can't find out who's tested, whether they're failing or they're passing. And I can't tell, I don't think West Bridgewater used a lot of foam, but I can
would
tell
think
what
of
happened in
near
Brockton.
airports and stuff that they, you know.
But Brockton had that airport. Wasn't in my lifetime, but
What
it
was
was.
the foam they used in the 50s or the,
No, it's
Oh,
current.
they've been using it.
No, it's
Oh,
current.
They use it all the time for,
still?
Yeah.
And that
They're,
gets
they're
going
working
like
to
that.
get it out
Yep.
now, but it, I guess it's something about the way it works. Nothing else they have right now actually
Right.
still does it well enough.
But it gets into the aquifer.
Yeah.
but I don't know if we want to take the chance at this point and be the guinea pig to see if we have any, you know what I mean?
Well, they must
How
have
did
had
that
a
come
bunch.
up?
They must have had a
Because
bunch of
it
larger
was free
systems
testing and I
already.
applied, I put our name in, but then, like I said, it went dead. And then when they want to speak to the purse holders or the money people in the town, and that's directly what he was asking for, I'm like, all right, there's something wrong. Because if you fail, you have to treat it immediately, so,
Now, they haven't done the test yet. though.
no, because I'm not responding to them.
Okay.
And it's DEP directly
Yeah.
communicating with?
Yep. So if they start testing and hundreds of towns fail, well, then they have to do something. They can't, not every town can afford it.
They got hold of Wayne and said they wanted to speak to David Gagney and myself, okay, the chairman. So that just means they're looking for money.
And they haven't done anything yet. They wanna know who they're gonna go after if there's an issue.
Right.
Yeah, how, you know, make sure that we have money on, when we do the testing, if we find something, you're gonna have to pay for it. And we're gonna have to make sure, and I told David, if you have a meeting with them, whether it's a Zoom meeting or in person, I think we ought to just listen to them, but don't promise them anything.
Mhm.
And then we'll come back, and the three of us will discuss it to what they wanna do, okay?
Makes sense. And we don't test for any of that now.
No, because it's not required, and it might be by the end of the year, but it's not currently.
One time, years ago, we had, they did the same type thing. Wayne did the right thing signing up for it, because years ago, the EPA said that you couldn't, everybody who had a groundwater source that was anywhere near a river, it would, like within 100 feet, it would be considered a surface supply. So you would have to use like a Brockton water treatment plant to treat the water. So I told him, I said, look, I got Manley Street, and the river, the well is actually in the river at times. The water flows right around it. And we never get the river water in the well. There's 2 layers of clay in between. So they came out for about 6 months and took samples from the river, and then they took samples from the well. And they were looking for like algae and stuff like that that they found in the river water, and see if they found it in the town water.
So there's no connection.
And there was no connection. So they did a couple of those, and they proved to EPA that New England was unique. And so they spent a lot of money, and they said that the engineering and for us to get around having to treat like a surface water supply, you'd have to budget about $100,000 in testing and engineering. So when I said, well, you already did all the testing, you already did all the sampling, so they had one more round to do. And I think I paid $300 for another round, and they did the round of testing, and they approved us. So we were considered not a surface supply. We saved it from building a plant, and we saved the having to do the proof. Okay, we saved $100,000. So in that case, it was good to work with the state, but we're not sure in this case if we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. So that's why I think we ought to just listen and see what they have to say. If they say that they're going to help us with treatment if it comes up, that's another story.
But
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Or the other issue though, if you don't let them do the free testing, who's gonna have to pay for the testing eventually? Because with that stuff, you're not gonna go along without ever testing it.
And it's something,
They'll probably have a
So it's
follow-up
either they test it for us for no money, or maybe we put it off a year and then it comes out of our pocket 100%.
but even if they test it for free, there's no guarantee when it comes up for testing, it doesn't appear on my schedule and I have to test again.
Now, what is it, a cancer causing
Yeah,
chemical?
Yeah.
it was huge like a year ago. It's still huge, but you don't hear it as much anymore.
No, they were really pushing it like a year
Right.
and a half ago. I remember being at a PCWWA meeting that they
Yeah,
were going off on it. And then, yeah, you're right, it just kind of went away for a bit.
right.
And then someone woke up. And now they're doing it again.
All right, so on our old business, anybody else got anything on that subject?
No, you're gonna meet with David and the guy from DEP.
Yep.
It sounded more like a phone call, but,
Yeah, he wasn't sure if it was gonna be a Zoom meeting, a phone call.
right. I didn't know if he had reached out, that's why I sent out the email, because I didn't know if he had reached out to you yet or not.
Yeah, but he is going to, they contacted me just through the email, and David said he was going to email her back for both of us and say that, I think it was October or September, we were available to discuss it.
Yeah,
And so it'll be sometime that, I told him to just set a date, it didn't matter, just let me know. So that's where we're at. Water rates, revenue shortfall. I gave you a letter too that David sent me an email choices there. Have you had a chance, Wayne or Terry, had a chance to look at our revenues compared to last year? Are we,
Alright, so we're
Yeah.
currently, we're selling water. We're on track that the next quarter, they're still using it, so that means that our next quarter would also be high, that we'd probably cover our budget.
Even the increase in the budget,
Right.
right?
Well, it's not, it was short enough, yeah, it would cover the increase.
So you feel we cover our, because we
Yeah,
increased our
because we
budget.
sold that much water, we're selling less than we did in 2016, but we're still above the years in between. Because it's been drought and people were pumping almost 1 million a day or better.
So you think we're on track to cover the 2,141,000 budget?
Yeah,
well, we have to somehow prove that.
and then that's the
With-
hard part.
See,
Show,
the Department of Revenue may not understand how our revenue works then.
Right, and I can understand them getting antsy, but the weather is a hard thing to call. You can't, I
I know,
couldn't
but
tell
they don't
you-
care about that, they wanna see numbers, they're accountants, so we have to show them like the old quarter billing, and then the matching one, and show that we have an increase of, say, $200,000
Right.
projected for the year. If our quarter is up, you know, and we could show that we're gonna bring in another $200,000, we'd have to be up $50,000 a quarter. If we could show that,
Right.
we, you know,
Yeah, but if we're up on that, they're not gonna just accept, if we're up this quarter in the summer, that it's gonna carry through all the rest of it either. We're probably gonna have.
well, then we have to go back to town meeting and cut our budget.
No, we changed the rates, which is what we were talking about at the last one.
Well, then, yeah, we could do that, and then
But-
project it out to what it would be.
If we show what we've sold so far being high, we can figure out how much higher it is than that. Maybe go one more quarter, then cut the other 2 quarters back, because that's winter and spring anyway. Cut that back to last year, see where that would put us.
Yeah, I mean,
And that way we have some, because they're not gonna just say, oh, so this summer's drier,
I know,
there's
yeah.
selling more water.
We have to just show them some numbers. Either raise the rate, or that we're selling more water, that's one or the other.
So what, our first quarter's up in October,
My next one is November 1, the bills will go out.
so after that, we can show them our first quarter numbers,
No,
right?
we don't have that much
We don't have the time.
When do we have to respond by when, September?
September 11th.
And probably need to get something to gag these people to
Before.
look at before that, because he's got somebody that deals with DOR. They can take a look at the numbers and see if they're gonna accept them or not.
So I mean, there is free cash to cover it, but I don't think they wanna see that either.
No, it's gotta be to say that it goes up from the rates, but do we know how much so far this year we're above, we're above last year?
So our last commitment was 628,888, and the prior year was 542,133, which is a difference.
The difference of what?
That's what I was trying to get out of the darn thing, but like that, it's not doing it. Let's do it the old way. $86,755, which won't cover 238,000. So if we did it in the same, if we did as much in the next quarter, which we're probably on track to be above, then you'd have double that amount.
So like 173, 510 above last year. Based on what we've already basically, we're already seeing that we're selling,
Right.
and we need 240.
238. 228.
228, 772.
Yep.
You need about 55,000 a quarter more, or with an increase in the rate of sell more water.
Can't.
We can't tell them we're gonna sell more water. That doesn't, that's
Well,
not,
I
if
already-
anything we do, they're gonna tell us, no, you're selling too much, you need to knock it down as a drought.
We're at the tipping point where they're not gonna, if it gets more expensive, they're gonna stop using it and they're gonna start putting in wells.
Okay, so,
I mean, the people that irrigate are gonna put in wells, because they're the ones using the heck out of it. And then once they start doing that, well, that's the money we need, then they're gonna start affecting our line again.
What was your last comment?
Crap. Well, we can't, last one was just, we can't say we're gonna sell more water to tell DOR that, because if we get into a drought, they're gonna tell us you have to stop all watering. And if we put on that restriction, we ain't selling more water.
We've never had that happen, I don't think, have we?
We have a restriction, it's made.
We just have the
It's
state,
just, it's just the 9 to 5.
but they've never told us
yeah, they do tell us that we're
That's
supposed
in
to,
there.
but we just don't enforce it because we can't afford to enforce it.
Yeah,
And we've
except,
always had enough water.
unless they start coming back where they get more serious about the withdrawals and the
But
basin.
DOI doesn't look at the DEP.
No, they don't care about that.
They don't care about that. DOI just,
They just.
DOI just cares about money.
Yeah.
Except we have to say how we're gonna do it. And like I said, if we say, well, we're gonna just sell more water, it's one thing to say the water we've already sold,
Yeah.
because we know that money's
That's a
coming in.
fact.
They're not gonna just let us say it's continuing to go up, just because. I mean, we'll have to do something in between. That's like $55 a service that we're off. Over 2 quarters. Can't do that.
You're based on last year's budget,
No, just based on last year's rate. If we have to come up with another 155,000
to cover the
to
20,
cover the rest of the year for the number of services we have, we'd have to come up with about $55 a service. So we don't want to put that, too much to put on the basic, that would be adding $26 a quarter to them.
what'd you say, $50 a service?
55, just under.
Yeah, that'd be like $12 per.
Well, except, but we gotta do it in 2 quarters.
Oh,
We'd only be able to get it for the next 2 quarters, we're not gonna be able to get it on the other ones, so it'd be about 25.
3 quarters.
Well, I
This was
always
already-
assumed that you had to let them know that the rate was going up before you institute the rate.
Yeah, so we couldn't add it for this quarter.
Because we're already into this quarter, so if somebody was gonna say, oh, if it's going up, I'm gonna stop using water, then they'd have a legitimate gripe.
But we just got the bill the other day, right? We just got our bills, you just.
But as the bill's going out, we're already, you're 15 days or better into the next quarter.
Yeah, well, that's nothing.
Currently, we're 30 days into it. Well, 1/3 of the way.
I don't think that's a big deal.
I think if
I
the rates
think you're
change
better-
ahead of, without being told,
I
we
think
didn't
you-
hear it being a big deal.
I think you're better off going up less and going up 3 3/4 than you are saying, well, we didn't have time to tell you and we gotta make it all up in the last 2 quarters. Now you gotta go up another third the amount. That's really gonna tick people off.
Yeah,
I think you tick them off
but
by
you
not telling them.
At least you're telling them, if you do what you say, then we're not, they're already using water that we haven't told them they're paying more for.
You're gonna add it to the basic charge, right?
But we could add part to each one, we could add some to basic and part to the excess, but
You're
right
not
now,
guaranteed the
right now,
excess.
they're already using
The
water.
Access is not,
You're not guaranteed the excess,
I know,
like you said, in wintertime.
I
it
know
comes
we're
back.
not, but we also, that's a ton of money to try to put up onto the basic. And we will be even at what we normally sell, we get excess revenue. It's not like we ever have a quarter that all we're billing is basic.
yeah, we did for the past 3 years. Pretty much. I
No,
mean, there was
everybody
excess,
gets
yes, but it's
excess.
minimal, it's minimized.
Everybody goes into excess, they can't. You
There's
can't
probably about 100 customers or less that don't go into excess, but
Yeah.
It's not very many.
no, it's far and few in their businesses or, you know, they're just using.
But you know we're gonna get some money out of the
Yeah.
excesses on it. I think people would be more upset if we go in there and they get this next bill and they've already been being billed
Right.
more
It's-
money for at least a month.
Right. It's like going to the grocery store and picking up the steak and it says $10, but when you get to think, oh, we had an increase, it's 15. It's not, you can't do that.
Can you tell the last 2 quarters how much last year, how much we sold in water total?
I can. So what do you want to know?
How much total water did we sell in the last 2 quarters?
Oh, I have to be careful here because it includes. So in water, it's do this. So just water alone is. It's right around 325 a quarter when we get into the winter months. That's just the water, that's the basic and the excess, that's not,
Total sale?
yeah, it's not the fees and everything else.
No, just off the water, because the fees,
The only one is the riser fee, but that's supposed to be towards the painting of the tanks and the.
Right. None of that counts. We have to get it from the water rate, the basic charge or the surplus.
does the 2,141,000
I mean,
number of Davids include those fees though?
It includes everything, it does include everything.
So can we pull out, we got a couple $100,000 in that budget that get paid for out of those, that are stuff for the tanks, to get paid by those fees and by the sprinkler fees, right? On your,
Yeah,
on
that's
our-
that,
So we got the 2,141,000 is the bottom number. So we should have a couple $100,000 we can pull out of that. Just for back on the, back
Yeah.
on the
Those are
work
fixed
sheet.
fees every year, right?
Yeah, those are fixed fees though, for the certain project. We can't be funding producing
talking about
water.
No, we're not going to, what I'm saying is
So-
that we were asking originally, we were talking about asking for 2,194,663. Going back when we were first working this up, there was 279 of that was painting the tanks and the principal and interest on the tanks.
Yeah,
We pulled that out because that comes out of the sprinkler fees and the, not the connection fee, what's the other one?
Sprinkler riser fees.
There were a couple of fees, and that's why we had that as a completely separate number.
right.
So can't we pull that out of that 2,140,000 something if we, for the water rates? Because that's separate money paying for that.
And it's a fixed amount, comes in every year, whether we
Yeah,
sell
but we're
water
still
or not.
it's part of our budget. though.
Hold it.
Well, it's part of our budget, but
Hold
we
it, but
should,
that 2 million, that number got covered by those fees. So we're still short, on the water revenue side paying the expenses of the labor, chemicals, electricity, and all that.
Yeah, but he's saying we're short. We basically have 2,141,766 is our 21 approved budget. Right?
Yeah,
That's gotta include,
it does include the paying of the tank loan, it includes the loans.
which is not paid out of the water rates. So we should be pulling that number out of the,
Yeah, but that's already figured into that revenue that we normally bring in, the fees. The fees are already in there. We have to raise the water rate.
yeah,
because-
but it's, the problem is how much? And if we're short this much, the 228,772, but out of the rate, are they counting that as part of, that's income that we are gonna have, that's separate from the water rates. Right, what we get in from the fees, those fees that we get in, that we bill those people for every year,
Yeah,
right? That's income separate from the water rates. And we budget that out to a certain amount that we bring in. So that's income. That shouldn't be, if we're trying to pick up, now we're down to 155, 262. If we've got so much income coming in off of those fees, that's income we can count towards that 155, 262. Because he's using that whole number.
it's already figured in there. He's already,
How? If he did that, it'd be a much smaller number, because you'd be taking that 280 out of the budget.
the Department of Revenue is already figuring what we brought in last year. The fees that we charged, we didn't lower them, so it's gonna bring in the exact same
Right,
amount.
and we're talking about this year coming.
Right.
And this year coming,
It's
based
gonna
on,
bring in the same amount of money, the fees.
right, but,
And the expenses are gonna be exactly the same.
and we are being told we have 2,141,766 for a budget, and it's 228,772 greater than revenue. So we're gonna do a water rate increase to bring that up.
Right.
But that part of that money is not, it's all of that money doesn't come from water rates.
You mean the 2,141?
The the money that we're talking about having to come up, it's greater than the revenue. We have to come up with more revenue, but part of our revenue, when we figure it out for this year, has to include those fees that we're collecting.
It already does.
But the 220.
No, we haven't talked about the revenue yet. That's what we have for a budget.
The
And then take-
228,772 is just water rate money we need to come up with. 'Cause
Well, that's not what it says. It's the difference between the budget and the income,
that's the difference, right? But wouldn't that,
which is water rates plus fees. So if we're looking going forward for this year, we need to add, we shouldn't just be changing the rates, we need to add the fees into that, because we're also collecting fees that are in here.
They're already in there. They're already figured in. He's already figuring. How much money did we bring in to the total
All
last
he
year?
talks about in the letter is revenue. He doesn't talk about the budget.
Well, that is revenue.
It's part of the last year's revenue.
Revenue. Right.
So the
Revenue was fees.
So we
fees
have
and
to
what?
figure out this year's revenue. This year's revenue is what we collect for water rates, and it's what we collect for
Fees.
the fees.
Right.
So it's not straight up. That
But
money
then-
has to come out of the rates.
Bill,
We start at zero. We figure out how much water we're selling, how much we think we're gonna sell. We put on the water rates, that gives us a number. We add the fees, that gives us our total. And
Okay.
then we see how much we have to play with, and how much we have to pick up.
the riser fees, they vary, but they don't vary that much. They're
why
basically
do they
about,
vary, Wayne?
because people don't pay their bills, so then they get things, but
That's
it's
the same rate.
It's
Right,
not, it's not a
basically about
It's
72,000 a
almost
quarter.
Alright.
We get 73 grand a quarter.
Yeah,
So one quarter might be
so
72.
it's 292,000 over the 4 quarters.
Only because they're not paying, it's all the
Right, it has to do with them not paying penalties and interest fees, the demand charges. Because I couldn't understand why that number fluctuated, but that's what it is.
Okay, so far then we've sold,
And it'll bump up a little bit when you get another building online,
Right.
you know, it'll go up a little bit.
because we're showing DOR where the money's coming from, that's 292 grand we shouldn't have in our water rates when we figure out what their number is.
Right, but the expenses behind that, are supposed to match that, you know what I mean? So if you collected from the sprinkler fees $200,000, you should have painting of the tank. What we did, we actually overcharged the customers, remember, on the sprinkler fees. So we paid the loan down by $100,000 because we had charged them more than the bonds and stuff were for painting of the tank. So then we have a choice, lower the rate to make it match the expense every year, or take some money every year and put it away for future painting of the tank so that rate won't have to go up the next time we paint the tank. We can keep it, you know, down a little bit, and we'll have some cash ahead to do the work.
Wayne, what's the next thing we're gonna have paid off?
On Manley Street.
Huh?
It'll pay off next year as payments will pay.
The iron removal plant,
We paid it off next year?
Yeah,
We have to pay through next year.
yeah, we have to
How
pay
much,
from
how
that.
much does that take out of our budget?
Outstanding. That one's not gonna pay off. So about, it's not gonna pay off. So one of them will, the iron removal plant itself, I don't know why there's two listed. One of them will pay, so it'll basically take about 90,000 off of that.
That's
One of them pays out, yeah, the other two go on.
The other two what?
There seem to be 3 notes attached to the water, to the iron.
yeah,
removal
see,
plant.
we bought the land separate from the contract, so that when we bought the land, there was a separate note for that. Then, I think there was 3 notes altogether.
There are,
Yeah,
So, only one comes off next year,
yep,
and that's only 90 grand a year?
yes.
only one goes off,
Yeah, because, the way, so, they're both, there's 2 listed as iron removal, so I'm not sure why that is, but one owes 182,000. It's paying off, so it's gonna get a payment this year of 91,
Yeah.
so another 91 the next year would pretty much pay that one off.
So in 2 years, we'll have 2 of them off, and that's
Yeah,
180
And
grand.
then the other ones are much more, they're only paying 20, one is at 75,000 owed, and it's only paying at 25,000 a year. The other one is 105,000, and it's only paying at 35,000 a year.
And what are those for? That's iron
No,
removal?
they're all tied to the iron
yeah.
removal.
When we bought the land, I think we paid $300,000 for the industrial lot. And then we had to do the site work, I think, on it.
Yeah, I saw it, there was something that it needed more, there was something, but I remember there were multiple
And then
purchases.
we did actually the construction. It was kind of odd too, because originally we were going to try to put the iron removal plant where the Manley Street well is.
Yeah.
And they were trying to figure a way to fit it in there. And then we were gonna have to truck all the lagoon discharge water away.
Yeah.
And it was gonna be super expensive. So I told him, put a hold on the whole thing, until we could find a piece of land that we could spread out and put some lagoons in. And if you remember, that factory that used to, take some milk bottles and everything, and they were,
Recycling place.
It was
Yeah,
like a
the
skate
recycling
rink
place.
first, and then it was a
And they were-
recycling place.
they were in trouble because and then we bought the land, and they had buried milk bottles and everything in the gravel. And so we had to do like a cleanup there
To
too.
this date, there's still glad you find pieces like,
Do you?
yeah.
Oh yeah, there was tons of it. They wanted, $80,000 to truck the gravel away with the broken glass in it. And, we gave it to Bill and Barney Bertarelli for free. They used it on a farm road. Bill said the glass, you know, just would break right up, and he didn't care if there was any glass in it. It didn't hurt anything. Made a nice base for the road.
Yeah, if anything, it'd be reflective.
And they trucked it away for free, and we saved 80 grand on trucking and disposal. That was considered, I don't know, hazardous or something, I don't know. Because it was glass. But we got rid of it.
All right, what are we gonna do?
So what did we, you said how much we were up for those last two commitments. What's the total we brought in from those two commitments? Remember, we had us up 86,755 over last year for the first, and we're thinking this next one's gonna be the same. You know what the total would be?
What, for next quarter?
Well, for that first quarter and the one we're in now,
So,
how much would we have actually been billed total?
so we just billed for the last quarter was 628,888. You can pretty much, it's pretty much set that it's gonna match that.
So that's,
It's about 1.2 million. Or 1.3.
And what were last year's two winter ones? We're gonna have to go on those, you can't erase those.
Right, so those, let me just look back one more.
because right now, if that's 1.2 million, we need to come up with about 650 grand over the next 2 quarters. To
They
meet- to
stay
meet the
pretty,
budget.
I mean, 405,000 is a good number for the last 2 quarters. They really go flat.
405,000 revenue?
Yeah. So times 2, so it's, each quarter would be about
That, I would
405.
say that almost looks like it covers it.
Right, it's really close, it's not, it gets catchy, because if you go up and then they start using it again, then you generate huge amounts of, which isn't bad, because then you can put it into capital projects.
Well, but you can't assume it.
Right.
But if the numbers are what he says, it's 2,141,766 is everything we have to get,
Yep,
right?
yes,
We're going to get 292 for the fees,
yep.
and then we're gonna have, crap, what was the number? I already lost it. Basically 1.2 million for the first 2 quarters. I ain't doing this math, I'm like, I'll get it wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I
Yeah, we're
think-
still gonna miss by a little bit, because if you
I
do
think we
this,
ought to go up on the rate anyways, only because we had pay raises that, we had to cover in this upcoming year, everybody got pay raises. Cost of everything went up a little bit, so there's no way that we can keep paying the bills with the same water rate that we had. We're just living on the fact that this year was a real dry year, and it's gonna catch up with us next year if we have a wetter year. So I think we ought to nudge it up a little bit and just make sure that we are covered.
No, I have no problem with that. Like I said, I think we're like right on the edge. I come up with $650,000 that we need to bring in for the next 2 quarters to meet our number.
And our budget will be going down a little bit, and then, you know, in 2 years out or 1 year out, it'll start dropping off a little bit, that'll help. But at the same time, you don't know what other projects we're gonna be picking up with notes on them, you know? So.
We can also put any surplus towards tank painting again.
Yep.
Well, and we're also talking potentially about having to come up with some way of funding, getting some pipeline replacements in conjunction with the paving program that Chris has, so we're gonna need to be coming up with money then anyway.
So you have to have an increase in the rate for future coming up with this stuff, and let it fall into surplus if you have to, just so you got a little bit of a,
Yeah, no, I have no problem with going up. I've just been working for like on and off for the last week or so, trying to figure out where it's short. And as it keeps coming up, which is basically right about there, the DOR is probably gonna wanna see a little bit of a cushion anyway
yeah.
for what we're gonna have.
Yeah, if it all holds out, and like I said, the 405 holds the last 2 quarters, which it has
And don't forget,
historically, and we do the
it's all what
620.
we collect, not what we bill.
We're only missing, we're missing by about $76,000.
Where are you getting the missing? Because I'm coming up the other way.
So if I show 2 quarters at 628, we already have one, you're right, that's what we're committing to. It doesn't mean that that's what they're gonna pay.
Right.
But at some point, the liens become part of our thing. It's been happening for so long now. If they don't pay, we're still getting it in liens coming behind it.
Yeah.
So it kind of equals out. But if you did 2 628s, if we do the next quarter and they use it like they're still using it, and that's another 628, and then you have 2 quarters of 405, that adds up to $2,066,000. And our budget being the $2,141,666.
Okay, but now add in the 292,000 that we're gonna collect on the fees.
No, I'm looking at the whole number.
Oh, the 628 includes
Yeah,
the fee?
those
All right,
628,
that's- all
yeah,
right.
no, that includes the fees.
I thought you meant that was what was
Yeah,
coming on
no,
the rates.
we haven't,
Okay,
we'd be here all night if you wanna start looking.
no, that's all right, as
There's
long as,
other-
I thought we were looking at one number and.
No,
I
I'm
was
looking
talking
at
about-
every, because it's all, the budget is one number, and that's what they're looking at. They're looking at the bottom number. You can try to confuse them with that other stuff, but in the end, they wanna know that you
No, but
covered
They
it.
only look at the bottom number.
Well, we're gonna have to show them the breakdown of the water rates and what the water rates bring in.
Right,
And the fees and what the fee, we're gonna have to break that out in the thing that goes to DOR.
right.
Because
Well,
otherwise,
you
we're
have to
gonna,
convince them, yes.
we're gonna have to show them a real high, an excessive rate to
Right,
show that it's gonna bring the money in. Because we'll be leaving that money on the table if we don't break that out as fees. Unless we just maybe show a bottom, the 292, just show per quarter how much that breaks out into. So we need around 70 grand?
yeah, about 76, that's break even, that's not, and they're gonna wanna see you above that. 'cause
Yeah,
they
You
know
better,
we're
better
gonna-
figure on 100,000 then. Better bring it up a little bit.
Right, because if we continue to chop down
25.
on our leaks and stuff, our chemical use will drop way
So
off.
that's
I mean, you could
33,000 a
probably
quarter,
gain something out of that.
3/4.
We gotta do it on 2, we can't raise the rate on a quarter that's already started.
Okay, so you're gonna have to raise that 50,000 a quarter.
Divided by- It's about- so if we-
50,000 a quarter for, how many customers you got, 2,700?
It's not 20, the number I use, it's not exact, but it's 2450.
Okay,
It's close enough.
yep,
Comes out to, it's $20 a quarter.
$20 a quarter. That's doing it for the last 2 quarters of this year.
Right, the flat quarters.
And you have to tell everybody now that it's gonna go up next quarter,
Right.
and the following, and then from now on in. You okay with that, Tom?
I guess we don't really have a choice.
I mean, we do sell in excess during those last 2 quarters, right?
Yeah,
We could go up part of it on the basic and hit the rest, even if we go a little higher than we think we need to, because some of the people might use less. And that's, $20 a quarter is a big jump in that bill. Yeah, I mean, 62 to 82,
Yeah. And a
that's a
quarter.
big, that's a big jump. I mean, if we could
Well,
go,
what you gotta do is you're doing the whole thing
no, I,
in a half a year, you're doing the whole year's
The
increase.
basic rate doesn't,
And a
I'm
half
not
a
even
year.
sure it covers 25% of our actual budget, so it's,
If you did it over 4 quarters, it would,
$10. That's what
It
should be.
yeah,
at the
10
start.
bucks.
Right.
which would be fine.
We can't do $10,
We won't have enough.
we won't have enough money.
then you'd have to tell them that
even though we show them we're selling more of this.
I mean, the basic charge should get us 800 grand plus,
Right.
as it is. So it's gotta, it's, you know, more than a quarter of the budget.
I'm in favor of just going up for the, what do we have to do for 3 quarters? We tell them right now, tell them we gotta go up this coming quarter. It's not gonna affect their excess, because no matter what, if they used a lot of water or not a lot of water,
They're not.
the
yeah.
basic charge is what's going up. It isn't gonna change anything.
You just
So the
stabilize.
thing is, we're really doing this to satisfy DOR, am I correct?
Correct.
Well, we're doing it to meet our budget.
Well, you have to
At the
meet
same
But I mean, it
time-
looks like we're gonna meet our budget the way we're going.
We'll be close, we'll be
In
really
reality,
close.
am I right, Wayne?
Yeah, we'll be close,
It's not gonna quite make it.
it's not gonna quite make it, no, I mean, if
So
it's
if we went
staying,
up $10 in reality without,
so I can't tell
My
you
DLR,
that
if
it's
we
not
went-
gonna rain after, I can see this week's forecast is fine into the weekend, but after that, I couldn't tell you that it's not gonna rain every 3rd day again, and suddenly they shut off their faucets.
See, with the state, we have to, it's not like the federal government, we can't run in a deficit, we have to raise the money to pay all the bills. So, that's just one of the things, if we run short 1 year, we have to prove that we've raised the rates and we're covering our expenses. You just can't run in a deficit.
I
So,
mean, we ran short this year and it's gonna come out of excess, correct?
And that's why we have to go through this, because we have to transfer it from excess into this, and now
And we're
that
still covering it with our money, I mean,
yeah, but they want us to raise enough money to cover our budget.
budget, which I understand, but.
Right, we have to have enough income.
But it's gonna keep, the weather affects us greatly.
Just like running your business,
I understand.
if your expenses are greater than what you're
Fully
bringing
understand.
in, and you say, well, I'm taking it out of my savings, and they go, well, when your savings runs out, then we're in trouble.
Problem is, we vary a lot, we definitely vary year to
Huge.
year.
And it's nothing we can control.
Like I said, $20 is a lot on
it comes out to $20.41.
Yeah, but that's because you're running a half a year, so
Yeah.
if you did it on
But then the next year, it's $20
3
per
quarters, could you do it for 15?
If
You do it for
if we
15
did it-
bucks, if we did it
If
on.
we did it for 3, 1360 would cover it, so 15 would work if we can go up on this, if we even can do that.
So,
Yeah, you could do that, we just notify everybody now.
if we went up $10 a quarter, next year we're gonna get the $10 a quarter for all 4 quarters. I know this year it's only 2 quarters.
Well, that's the thing, though, we gotta make it work, I think, for this year, is the problem.
Yes.
But then next year we're gonna be too high.
No, no,
If we were,
Well,
we
because
could
our
knock
budget-
this back down, but we'll see what it is.
Yeah. Alright.
yeah, it won't be, it'll come out just about where it should be. Because you're gonna have pay raises and things like that, expenses go up every year a little bit. The only time our budget gets a nice decrease is when we pay off a
Pay
note.
something off, which
Yeah.
we're doing next year.
And we're
Right.
just-
Is it next year when we pay off one of the,
Yeah, at the end of next year, after we make it through the fiscal year, so technically next year doesn't, we're still at the same budget. We can trim a few things, like in the chemical use, as long as we can keep tightening up our system.
One of the
And
nice
they're gonna
things
go up
that they
on the
don't-
costs on the chemicals.
Right,
One of
and
the-
that one's,
That's
that's
the
huge
problem,
too,
we don't
because
know.
the KOH spiked at one time too, and we can't control that.
One of the things that they used to do that they don't do anymore, I notice, is when we take a bond out on a tank or something like that, the bonds used to run in 5-year increments where your payments started out, say, principal would be $100,000 a year. But then after 5 years, it would drop to 75,000 a year for the next 5 years. Then it would drop to $50,000 a year for the next 5 years. So that gave you a little shot in the arm every 5 years
Recover.
for your budget, you know, you could eat some of the pay raises and the expenses of chemicals going up and stuff. We kind of banked on that, you know. But I noticed that now they give you a principal payment and it's all the same for 20
Yeah.
years.
It doesn't change.
So if we go up 15, that'll give us another 110, 250. Yeah, on that, it's what, 2450 services?
Yeah. Let's do 110, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, I figured it had to be.
How much you saying? 15 what?
That'd be $15 a quarter, if assuming we start at this quarter. And it's not because you overspent, you actually underspent last year's budget, we just
Right.
had such a wet winter, we didn't have the revenue coming.
Right.
It's got noth- It's not like you didn't do anything that you could
Right.
on it. You came in
Yeah,
under
controlling
budget.
cost as much as we can, it's just.
Yeah,
It's not like taxes, you send out a tax bill based on
It's
what your
100 houses,
expenses
and
are.
it doesn't matter if it rains,
It's a variable,
snows,
due to
or.
weather.
yeah.
Well, yeah, an earthquake, that might make a difference.
Ours varies on what the weather is, so. But we still have to, we still come under the same rules. So, somebody wanna make a motion for an increase starting this quarter at $15? I'll make a motion that we
That's-
increase it this quarter, starting now on the basic charge for $15. Anybody want to second it?
I'd still like to think there's a way we could do it into the excess, but we're doing it at the wrong time of year to get it into the excess, we're kind of
Right.
stuck.
People, yeah, people that excess, they don't understand it, but that excess, if you raise the basic to stabilize our thing, and you lower the excess, then they start wasting water like hell, because they know it doesn't cost them
Yeah.
as much. And you can't do that, because then we'll get in trouble with our cap.
And it also hurts.
What?
Is it 65 gallons per day per
Per
household?
person?
Yeah,
Because they're wasted, because it's too cheap
Right,
to allow
'cause
Is
it's
it
it.
per
cheap,
person
so-
or per household?
I think it's per household.
No, person.
Yeah.
Per person.
Yeah,
Was it 65 a day?
yeah, and we stay way under that.
I didn't think we were way under, but we are.
Yeah, I think we average out to about 50, I think, or
Yeah.
52, so we have,
We're not way under,
Wrong.
but it seems like we're way under,
Right.
but we
Yeah.
do make it.
the idea is to make our revenue, but keep them from wasting it, but they can use it still.
Yeah, I'll second it, Mike.
Okay, I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Okay, now,
Now we can be a little letter.
I say, is that gonna go from you, or go from the commissioners?
It comes from the commissioners.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll need to put a letter together with a summary of our projected revenues to date,
Yeah,
or through this next billing cycle.
So we needed to get this done by this meeting, because that has to be there by September or something, right?
yeah, and then I'll have to work up some numbers to show them, and then I'll.
Yeah, we definitely-
And we'll vote on the letter and send the letter out next meeting.
Okay,
I
will
think
there be
it's-
enough time? What was the date that?
September 11th is when he wanted it.
Yeah, and the next thing is November 1.
November 1?
Yeah.
Will we meet, all right, so that'll give
September.
us enough time.
No.
Next time we're meeting?
Oh, no, the next billing cycle.
All right, so at our next meeting, well, let's let David know what we did
Yeah,
verbally. And tell him we're putting together a letter with some figures of how it's gonna generate the money that we need, okay?
right.
On the number of people with a $15 increase per household and business, everything. and just tell him I'll have it all broken down. Kerry can put the explanation together, and
I'll try to write it up.
he could send it off, then he could send it off to the DOR,
Yeah.
see if they go
Again, I
along
think
with
he wanted it, if we get it to him at this next meeting, he actually said he might try to get us a sample letter. He had mentioned that too, from whoever was at town hall that's dealt with him before. On some other stuff.
Yeah, which, Kathy.
Kathy, yeah,
Yeah.
he said she might have something as an example, so maybe if you're gonna let him know what we decided to do, ask him for the letter, if he's actually got it.
So do you want me to contact David?
Yeah, just let them know verbally that we voted, we're gonna increase it $15, and we figure that that's gonna satisfy the shortfall.
Right.
And we will give him a letter with a breakdown so the accountant can see it, and then she can put it in her own wording to the DOR. And I think all she has to put in her letter is that the water commissioners voted on it, an increase of $15.
Yeah.
And she more or less deals with the DOR. I don't think we have to, the accountant does it.
No, we have to do the letter.
Oh, no, it's
with
we have to do the
Dennis.
letter, but it's more to her, and then she deals with the DOR. They won't contact us. They'll leave it to the accountant to do it. That's what we did last time, we didn't get involved in it, we had to fix it with a vote. And they know all those people, they deal with them all the time. So just have Kerry try to do a breakdown for us, so next time we can vote on the letter and we can sign it and send it on, okay?
Yep.
Have her send it out before the meeting so we can actually take a look at it.
Yeah. She's on vacation this week.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Update on well replacement?
So I haven't, there's no change on that. I haven't heard anything from them. The last I knew, they had approved, DEP had approved the pumping test. They were supposed to be getting together with the company and coming up with a date to come out here. I haven't heard anything from them.
Okay. Anybody got anything they wanna add up?
The only other thing is, so, if you're trying to close up the meeting,
Well, did you have something on
I don't,
the rules and regs? Did you have something you wanted?
oh, did I send that to you?
You sent it.
Alright, and I.
It's
so-
not on the agenda, but say arise.
All right,
take
so
other
you
questions.
can't say anything here, so then,
I printed mine out, I haven't had a chance to read through it.
all right, I
It's
mean,
like 40 pages long.
yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
was
but-
trying not to kill a tree, printing them, and then, pretty much, there were 3 sections that had been changed. They weren't all done at that meeting, but through the way, because at one meeting, you had voted on, about the single house and the services after the meter. So there were 3 changes, I think I told you what page to look
Yeah, you
at.
told us what pages and they're highlighted. It
Yeah.
was easy to follow.
Alright. I mean, if you want, I can print them out and drop them off to you. Yeah, it's a long read, it's,
So my only question I had was on that, where we changed that with the meter.
yeah.
Do we want to add at the end, subject to water commission approval? In case somebody decides to do something stupid on another building on a lot?
Ken,
I mean, that's the only thing, it says
so if
basically,
you, so it's like with the zoning board and anybody else, if you give them room, so once you let one through, then they can come and, it's, if you
Well,
let
basically,
one,
we're just saying after the meeting now,
alright, yeah,
right?
right.
yeah,
They either-
but right now, the way it's written right now, it just says for accessory building, they either have to run a new service or tap the
After
existing
the
service
service.
after the meter.
So I don't know, I'm
And
not sure.
The only thing that popped in was if somebody decides to put something bigger out, something that should have its own meter. Which I don't know what it might be, it's just something, if we, all of a sudden
Well,
it comes in and we don't, because now we don't have the option to look at it and say,
Right.
wait.
As long as they're not tapping it before the meter, and it's going through the meter, and they're not getting enough water, that's their problem, they'd have to put a new service in, bigger service, but, I mean,
Yeah, the
If they
meter
ran
was-
something big through the meter, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
But
all.
you- one thing that we did have happen a number of years ago, I'm not sure if it, I think it was, before you guys got here.
the only-
We had an individual with a barn, and then he built a house on a separate lot. And he never put water into his house, he just tied it off the back of the barn.
I know where that exists at.
That way, you know.
With no meter in the barn, or?
Yeah, there was a meter in
No,
the
that
barn,
wasn't in the barn.
but if he ever sold the house doesn't have water.
Oh, they weren't on the same lot?
No, they're separate lots.
How are you gonna change that? They did it without
Well,
approval anyway.
and
You can
it's,
say approval's required, but they do it without approval anyway.
but
It's not gonna
then,
fix anything.
Then you shut them off.
yeah, then you can shut them off.
Well,
if it
here's the
says our
problem,
approval.
when the house got built, the water department should have had to sign off on the, you gotta show you got water.
So the building
You get a building
inspector
permit.
currently is really good about asking for approvals, but
The
back
building
in the
inspector?
days, it wasn't always that way. They-
Yeah.
They all operate different.
That's the breakdown right there, the building permit should show where the water's coming from.
Right. And the building inspector didn't always
So
do
it
that.
slipped through the cracks of the building department. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not,
Right.
He
we
just
can
let-
say it needs approval, but they don't come to us anyway. I mean,
And it's still out there, that particular building is still out there. If the property gets broken up, somebody's gonna buy a house without water. Comes through another lot.
The only, if you put in your wording that every Tom, Dick, and Harry can come in and you'll be turning them all down.
it probably already says in our bylaws that every lot has to have its own tap, right?
It didn't, no, that wasn't, because usually you don't run into that, but now people are trying to beat us.
And that means we're giving up, well, it
Really?
was $294 a year, now if we don't, if we keep that at 15, you're talking about, what, another 65, you're talking about $350 a year for a service, that if we're not, if it's something that should have its own service.
Right.
And when I printed out everybody's rates and fee schedules, we're right in the middle of the road. We're not
Right.
Yeah,
expensive,
no,
we're
we're,
not cheap.
That's fine.
All towns run into the same thing, you know? They're all charging the fees that we're charging.
Right.
They're all got about the same rate.
Most of
We're
them
not-
have more fees than we.
We're not huge in our fees, but it's just what it
no,
is.
we can always, if it's too big an uproar, we can always look at, in conjunction with the budget next year, over 4 quarters, we could always adjust it again.
The other
But it's-
thing,
But at least this covers us for what we gotta get done.
the other thing that you have to look at too, is when you look at other towns, some towns aren't enterprise systems with the water department pays all their own bills, they come off they're running off taxation. 50% of their budget, 25% of their budget is off taxation.
The big enterprise systems are becoming slimmer and slimmer because you don't generate the capital you need.
Right, but the
Especially in a
DEP,
small town.
Right.
DEP wants people on the enterprise system because what happened in 2.5,
Yeah.
the water departments were the first thing to get cut. There was all the improvements DEP was requiring, pH adjustment and stuff like that. There was no money through taxation because of 2.5. So they wanted everybody to be enterprise system so we could raise the water rate and pay for those things.
And you
So-
have dedicated, somewhat dedicated funding that the town can't then just take to fund other stuff.
Right, so what I did find was most of them, when they get absorbed by the town, they still have water rates and they still have quasi-commissioners, but their capital is coming out of the towns.
But then you're fighting with the same, for the same dollar that the school's
Yeah,
fighting
if the
for.
school needs a new roof, it's gonna get a new roof and we're not.
Yeah, you're not gonna get a new main. So there's good and bad to both of them. It's just, we're limited to the capital that we can fix every year, and it's the way it's been for years and years and years. We have to also, anything on new water source?
No, there's nothing on no, because that's waiting on the permit and I haven't heard anything on the permit either.
Okay. And how about your leak detection?
I didn't do anything with that yet, because I tried to use up some of my vacation time, I haven't succeeded that well. But I ran into, so High Street blew apart before, on last Friday, when I was supposed to go away and didn't. Those holes didn't just appear, they were there leaking for a little while.
Yeah, this is the old,
Yep.
this is gonna be part of
But
what
that's
we
not
have.
2-inch, Wayne, I thought we had a 2-inch one.
No, this was one of the services running off of it, this is,
Oh.
right, but the 2-inch isn't gonna look any better than
Can I
this.
see that?
And that's gonna
Yeah.
work.
That-
This was the leak? that you-
Yep, and that didn't appear in a day, that has been running for a long
Yeah.
time. I think we should start abandoning the 2-inch mains. But when I looked at their list that they're gonna pave, it's none of the streets.
That's a lot of water that was going on.
That's a lot of water. So between that, and we cut off the old main on Ash Street that was leaking away. And we didn't know was still tied into the system. Because I remember the person up there said that whole area had always been wet. Yeah, it was wet because that's where the main was.
Yeah.
Also, the 2 sections right there leaking?
Yeah, those were 2 leaks right back that they were within the same thing. I still have to go up, the church still has a steel service going to him. So I'm gonna get rid of that, so he's all copper all the way back, but he's back to the 2-inch steel main.
But at least we don't have the service
Right,
rotting away.
right, cause, but inside, they look clean pretty much.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not.
What happens with the 2-inch main is it expands and then it starts to ooze. It doesn't, usually you don't see the holes like that. What happens is it just oozes out and then it'll blow off a piece.
Some of the 2-inch main, the seams go in it.
Right.
They used to weld them, you know,
Yeah, most of our things disappear.
They open
from
right
there,
up. like a slice.
Didn't Chris say that it'd be okay with if we had some streets you wanted to
Right,
do stuff
so
in, so he
I'm-
might be able to shift his
I
paving
can,
around?
so I can send him a letter and we should pick a street and if that's what I should go after, is jumping all of the people off of it. Wherever, and then see if we can't get them to help us back to back. The list, I believe there are like 3 or 4 streets where there are duplicates on the street, so.
So you can just jump it, you don't have to.
Right, but you end up with the, the checkerboard effect going
Yeah.
down the street from the patches.
You know, on your list here, you got Howard Street, you wanna eliminate that.
That's the one, because it showed on the thing.
I wouldn't get rid of that, I'll tell you why.
Oh, that has to,
The libraries tied
yeah, they're
in,
tied into it's weird up there, yeah.
and you've got a lot of
They just
the
repaved that
school,
street
the
too, so.
school is tied into that.
They never provided a hydrant down by the school, so when we get a water complaint down by that school, we can't.
Can't flush it.
Right. They have a long leg going in.
Right, that's because it was well, there used to be one up by there's one up by the
Yeah, you
playground.
can do it back of the street, but it's a long leg going in that feeds.
Yeah. But see, that wasn't a West Bridgewater school, that was the Howard school there for girls. So they just used the water mains that were there for the dormitories and everything. That's where they fed them off of.
I show these because you're supposed to have a 5-10 year plan. It's not shown that it has to be done immediately. It's,
Well, the 6-inch, you got a 6-inch, the other one's an 8. So the 6-inch and an 8-inch are probably pretty close to a 12. It's like having a 12 on Howard Street. And the 6-inch can't be that old. I wouldn't worry about that. I'd worry about more my 4-inch. 2s and 4s, all those 2s and 4s.
the 2s really need to go.
Yeah, the 2s are really old. They're way back.
And steel beside, but fours are all cast?
Yeah.
The one that I'm surprised at, that we haven't had a lot of leaks in, is Pinecrest Road. Almost every house on Pinecrest Road is in the end of the 2-inch, and there's a 12-inch on the other
So
side
I
of the
want to
road.
say thank you because probably from here on out.
And that
Yeah, you should have
2-inch,
said that.
I had very few leaks on that thing. I can't figure it out.
You don't get any complaints either, but they're another one but it's literally like they went around and paved all of those streets. I understand that they've already paved them, but without talking to us, now those are the very streets that I need to be in, because I know they did Pinecrest not too long ago.
Did they?
Yeah. Most of the ones where our 2-inch mains exist, but if you don't, and we have to mill and pave, then you've gotta go up on the rate again. Do they really want us going to town meeting and saying, well, the rate just went up just to cover our budget, but now we have to go up again
We'd
because.
we'd have to do that in the budget and have a specific item for it, and FinCom would probably take it out.
You would hope.
Well, we'll,
Because that would be, that's getting into big, real big money to start.
whenever you get a leak up there on Pikers Road, if you get a leak, don't fix it. Put a whole new service in, tie it into the 12th,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and eliminate them off the two. Start cutting down on the number of services. My father's has been turned over. I know Pomeroy's on the corner, they were turned over. I think a couple others up there too. I think up by, Darpino's, I think in the end there was one we did. McFadden's might have, the next house to the right.
I just know the houses, I don't.
Yeah.
I do know that in the old books it has the names on the houses instead of numbers.
Yeah, well, I grew up there, so I know all the old neighbors, but some of those, we did change over, because they got leaks, and we tapped them into the 12.
Alright, what's our next meeting?
It's,
The first Monday in September is Labor Day.
yeah, you can't do that. Man, she has listed as the 8th.
The 8th?
Yeah.
Okay, when's the Labor Day? Isn't that around Labor Day?
7th, it's
Labor
late.
Day's the 7th.
Yeah, it's late this year. It's a weekend.
So,
Do we wanna check with Gagny? If we don't have that till the 8th, is that gonna be enough time to get?
I can ask them, but I mean, if you
We can
have
leave.
to, it would just be a quick meeting to just ratify all
Let's
that.
say, because otherwise maybe move it up to the week before, if we have to. If he says that's not gonna be enough time for some reason.
Alright,
That's, you know, because originally we're thinking meeting would be the first week, then you get the 11th. Now it's
Right.
kinda, it's only a couple days ahead of the,
you wanna do that, Tom?
Yeah, the 8th.
Meet early?
On the 8th?
No,
well, put,
a week,
meet at the end of
a week
August. then?
before, the-
Oh,
have another meeting.
it'd be August 31st, the
Yeah.
meeting, which would be just to do
Just-
the last.
so skip the 8th
Instead of the 8th,
instead of the 8th?
yeah.
So the 31st?
Yeah, we can do that. All it is Carrie has to change the
Yeah,
list.
So we'll meet the 31st, yeah?
Yeah,
You wanna do that?
yeah, I just would do that.
and if we get a preliminary draft, we'll just send it up to you first anyways, so
Yeah.
that we can,
I'm just thinking if we send that and then it goes to David and somebody comes back and wants something
Doesn't like
changed
it,
or
yeah.
something, we'd have no time to this, that way at least would be able to call another.
Make
session.
sure he knows what we did and with some paperwork, so he'll
yeah,
digest it, so when we meet, anything we have to do, we can do it. So we're not scrambling for the last minute, we can straighten it out at that meeting. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.